Parachuting Hamsters and Andy Russell, Chapter 11. So what happened in Chapter 10? Let's see here. Look What Someone Did. That's what it was called. And they were at the ballet. And remember, Jason went to the bathroom, and then Tamika said, "Hurry, you gotta go too." Oh, and then they came back, and let me see here. Oh no, tried to follow him, and he couldn't. He lost him in the crowd, and then they went back to their seats, and then remember, bread was falling from the mezzanine, the higher levels, and then Andy said, look at what someone did." So maybe he was doing it, and then he's thinking that he should write it down because he likes to throw things off from high things. Maybe he was the one who did the hamsters. Okay, so what? Something green and stringy was hanging from the edge of the balcony. "What's that?" Andy asked. "Let's take a look," Tamika said. As Andy and Tamika started toward the back of the theater, Jason said, "I'm thirsty. I need a drink." "Let's all get drinks," said Aunt Mandy said cheerfully. Jason grabbed his backpack and followed Aunt Mandy, Tamika, and Andy up the aisle. It was a wide aisle, but people were walking single file. No one wanted to walk into the green stringy stuff hanging from the balcony. Jason was smiling. "That's terrible," Aunt Mandy said. "Who would do such a thing?" "And how did he do it?" Tamika asked. Jason took a few steps back and looked up. "He or she probably went upstairs, leaned over the rail, and sprayed from a can of stringy foam," he said. And he said, "And I know where he keeps that can of stringy foam. He keeps it in his backpack." He reached for Jason's pack. "What are you doing?" Aunt Mandy asked Andy. "That belongs to Jason." "He can look in there," Jason replied, handing Andy his backpack. Andy reached into the backpack. There was no can. "Here," Andy said, returning the pack to Jason. Aunt Mandy and the three children went to the refreshment counter in the mezzanine lobby. "I want orange soda," Jason said to the man behind the counter. Andy and Tamika told Aunt Mandy they weren't thirsty. Aunt Mandy and Jason walked away from the counter to the corner of the lobby. Tamika held on to Andy's sleeve, signaling him to stay behind. "Well, Detective Russell, my tricks didn't work. Now what do we do?" "What do we do?" Andy repeated. He pointed to his own head and said, "I guess I'm a good detective after all. What we just proved is that Jason did spray the foam." "We did?" Tamika asked. "Yes," Andy said. "This morning the guard looked inside the backpack and told Jason he couldn't take it into the museum. That's because there was something suspicious in there. But it's not there anymore because Jason used it up." "You mean something like a can of stringy foam?" Tamika asked. "Exactly," Andy said. "Jason must have leaned over the rail of the balcony and sprayed it. When the can was empty, he threw it away. He thought that by showing us the empty backpack, he'd tricked us, but he really tricked himself." "That's right," Tamika said. "And the rolls weren't in there because he broke them into crumbs and dropped them on people." Andy and Tamika looked at Jason. He was drinking his soda. Andy said, "I'm going to have to do what the TV detectives do. I'll make him confess." The lights flickered again. Andy and Tamika followed Jason and Aunt Mandy to their seats. While everyone else watched the third act of Sleeping Beauty, Andy watched Jason. He wondered how he could make him admit that he'd thrown the hamsters out the window. When the ballet ended, almost everybody in the theater stood and applauded as the dancers took their bows. After the curtain closed, Aunt Mandy and the children followed the crowd up the aisle and out of the mezzanine. Tamika thanked her aunt for taking them to the ballet. Andy and Jason thanked her too. "I really enjoyed spending the day with such good children," Aunt Mandy said. "Good?" Andy thought. "Jason is not good at all. Sometimes I wonder if adults have any idea what's really going on in this world." In the orchestra-level lobby, a woman in a red dress turned and saw Andy. "Oh no," Andy thought. "I'm in trouble again." The woman pointed at Andy. "That's him," she said loudly to the man next to her. "That's the boy who leaned over the mezzanine rail and dropped breadcrumbs into my hair." "Excuse me, but it couldn't have been him," Aunt Mandy told the woman. "He didn't bring any bread into the theater." Aunt Mandy looked at Jason and said, "But this boy did." Jason smiled at the woman. That's true, he told her. I did bring some rolls into the theater. If some crumbs dropped on your head while I was eating, I'm sorry. The woman grunted and walked off. When you leaned over the rail, you weren't eating a roll, Aunt Mandy said. You deliberately dropped crumbs on that woman, didn't you? Jason didn't answer. And you wrote my name on the wall of the museum bathroom, Andy said accusingly to Jason. I got in trouble for that. I had to wash the marker off. You did? Aunt Mandy asked. When Jason didn't answer, she knew that he had. And the worst thing of all, Andy said, was the worst thing that you did was to throw hamsters out your window. You did that too? Aunt Mandy asked. That's horrible. Andy and Aunt Mandy were talking really loudly. People in the crowded lobby turned to look. I didn't throw the hamsters out the window, Jason said. I dropped them off the balcony, and I knew they wouldn't be hurt because before I dropped them, I tested my handkerchief parachutes with tomatoes and toothpicks. The tomatoes weren't hurt, so I knew the hamsters would be okay too. They were so scared, Andy said. Not that you even cared, Jason, but Tom has the hamsters now, Tamika said. They're all crowded in a wooden box. Aunt Mandy grabbed Jason's hand. She pulled him toward the exit. I'm getting you home, she said. I don't want to be responsible for you anymore. I don't even want to be with someone who annoys people with breadcrumbs and defaces museums and tortures animals. The children were quiet during the taxicab ride home. In the elevator of the apartment building, before she pressed the button to go up, Aunt Mandy asked Jason, Are you the one who put butter on the elevator buttons too? It wasn't butter, Jason answered quietly. It was just margarine. And you thought that was funny? Aunt Mandy asked. Jason didn't answer. Ooh, look at him. He's so snotty looking, huh? Ugh. Aunt Mandy pressed the elevator button for the 20th floor. When the doors opened, everyone got off. While they were standing at the door to Jason's apartment, Aunt Mandy looked at Jason. First, you owe all of us an apology, she said firmly. I'm sorry, Jason told Aunt Mandy. Then he apologized to Andy and Tamika. Aunt Mandy told Jason, and those hamsters don't have to live crowded in a box. Do you have a cage and food for them? Sure I do. Do you want to buy them? Answered Jason. That's not your cage and it's not your food, Andy said angrily. They belong to the hamsters. Jason looked at Aunt Mandy. That's right, Aunt Mandy said. They belong to the hamsters. Just go and get them. Jason knocked on the door to his apartment. His mother opened the door. Jason hurried into his room. Jason's mother thanked Aunt Mandy for taking him to the museum and the ballet. Aunt Mandy looked at Jason's mother. Aunt Mandy seemed like she was about to say something, but she didn't. Jason returned with the hamster cage, a bag of food, and hamster toys. He gave all the things to Andy and Tamika. These are for Tom, Jason explained to his mother. He has the hamsters now, and he needs this stuff. Oh, you gave the hamsters to Tom? Jason's mother said. That's so nice of you. Before Andy or Tamika could respond, Jason's mother turned to Aunt Mandy. I hope that the next time you take your niece and her friend somewhere, you'll take Jason along too, she said. Aunt Mandy said, I don't think so. Jason's mother was surprised by Aunt Mandy's answer. She waited for an explanation. Speak to Jason, Aunt Mandy said. He can tell you why. Andy, Tamika, and Aunt Mandy waited. I got into some mischief at the museum and at the ballet, Jason said quietly. I'm so sorry, Jason's mother told Aunt Mandy. Then she turned to Jason. We need to talk. Ask him about the hamsters, margarine, and breadcrumbs, Aunt Mandy said. All that? Jason's mother asked. Yes, Aunt Mandy answered, as she led Andy and Tamika toward the elevator, and the bathroom walls, too. Andy, Tamika, and Aunt Mandy went to Tom's office in the underground garage. The white Zinfandel box was on Tom's desk. Look, babies, Tom said. 6 tiny hamsters were cuddled with their mother. I love watching them, Tom said. He saw all the things Andy and Tamika had brought for the hamsters. Let's leave the mother and her babies in the box, but we can move the others. Aunt Mandy and the children helped. Andy watched as Aunt Mandy lifted a hamster and put it in the cage. He was impressed by how gentle she was. I plan to keep the hamsters here, Tom told the children. You can visit them anytime you want. And if you come to our house, you can visit my gerbils, my snake Slither, and my goldfish Sylvia. Andy told Aunt Mandy and Tom. Don, don, don.